Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics. This week's video, we're taking a look at the Dead Air Silencer's Pyro Quick Detach Muzzle. We can't talk about the Pyro without first talking about Dead Air's flash hider. The flash hider is pretty much what I consider the foundation of Dead Air's QD system. What you have is what's in the name, a flash hider. You'll notice it's a three-prong. The problem with three prongs in the past has been that ping. Most people don't really notice it. Some people do notice it and they don't like it, and they try to get a muzzle device that doesn't have that ping. What other companies have done is they changed the length of the tines that help prevent that harmonic ping that you're getting when you shoot, because, you know, equal mass equals equal harmonics, which means every round out the concussive force is going to cause a ping. The ping can get kind of annoying, and there's some other arguments against it as well. What Dead Air did is they just did what, you know, they shifted the mass. If you look right here, you can see that depending on which side of the flash hider you're looking at, there is a shift in basically a lightning cut, a weight reduction cut to change the harmonics, change the diameter, the geometry, if you will, of the flash hider, so you don't get that ping, which is super cool, and it's nice to know that they put the thought into it. Definitely a lot of, I guess you could say, engineering went into the design of just the flash hider itself and their QD attachment system. So you might be asking yourself, why are we talking about a flash hider when the review is about the Pyro? Well, the flash hider, again, what I said, is the foundation of their system. The flash hider is the basic level of operation. At least that's how I see it. I like flash hiders. The reason I like flash hiders is they do hide the flash, and that's important. In today's social media driven market, muzzle flash has become a really, really cool thing. The problem is muzzle flash looks great in photos, looks cool on videos, but when you think about it from just a critical thinking standpoint, you think about being behind that gun in those low light conditions, that flash might not be something you want. In fact, it's probably something you don't want. If you look at for law enforcement, military, or self-defense applications, that muzzle flash will announce to the guy that you may not have hit, or his buddies, there he is. So muzzle flash is something we want to mitigate as much as possible, which is why I'm glad that Dead Air came up with a system that gives you what you want when you want it. The Pyro is a muzzle brake. Some may ask, well, what's a muzzle brake for? For those of you that don't know, muzzle brakes were created to help mitigate recoil. Originally, we just had pretty much flash hiders. The great thing about a flash hider is, as I've already said, it mitigates or eliminates a large degree of the muzzle flash that you get when you shoot the gun, which helps conceal your position or what have you, mainly for military applications. The problem with flash hiders is they generally, by design, don't do a great job of helping to mitigate muzzle rise. And muzzle rise is an issue for follow-up shots. The more muzzle rise you have, the longer it's going to take you to get back on target. So for people who wanted to shoot fast and flat, muzzle brakes became a thing. The problem with the muzzle brake is usually by design, the way it helps mitigate recoil is, or I should say muzzle rise, is it redirects those gases in a very violent way in order to keep the gun flat. A byproduct of that is increased muzzle flash. Of course, muzzle flash, already kind of talked about it. We don't want muzzle flash if we can avoid it. However, there are some situations when muzzle flash is completely acceptable. You got low flash ammunition, which we'll get into. And then, of course, you have daytime use when even the most biblical of fireballs is not really going to obscure your ability to see the target because you're outdoors in the light. Obviously, at night, that same effect would probably, most likely and will, blind you. But there is a distinct advantage for a muzzle brake in certain situations. Of course, the thing about any muzzle device is you have to pick your poison. If you want to mitigate flash at all times, you have to choose a flash hider and just go ahead and accept that it's not going to help keep the gun as flat as some other muzzle devices. If you choose a muzzle brake, you are accepting that you want to keep the gun flat. That's your primary objective, and you're just going to go ahead and accept the fact that the muzzle flash is going to be increased over flash hiders. There's a great degree of skill and practice that can go into helping mitigate recoil on the gun. Just your basic stance, your grip, your hold, how you're going to shoot. But you're only, no matter how strong you are, you're only able to manhandle that gun so much. Recoil and muzzle rise is still going to be a consistent issue, and the muzzle device is one of the easiest ways and one of the best ways to help control that. With the Pyro, you have the option. If you want to mitigate your flash, you use the flash hider. If you want to help keep the gun a little bit flatter, you go ahead and quick attach the Pyro. So basically, the genius, the simplicity, and the genius in the system is you've got a flash hider when you want it, and a muzzle brake when you want it. Of course, just talking about recoil control, how significant is the muzzle rise on the 223-556, which is what I put the flash hider on? It's not significant, but again, if you want those follow-up shots and you want them fast, it does help to be able to keep the gun flatter. So a lot of flash hider design is focused around mitigating the muzzle flash, but of course, in modern days, once we've got some of those kinks worked out, a lot of companies start to put thoughts towards, let's try to see if we can mitigate recoil as much as we can, or that muzzle rise as much as we can, while mitigating the flash. With the QD system, just showing you right now the recoil pulse of the flash hider. Recoil pulse remains the same. This is on the agency rifle, which is a 14.5 inch. Basically what you get is you get your soft straight to the rear, and you get a slight muzzle rise, slight deviation. Your dot's going to bounce just a little bit. It's not too horribly bad. It's definitely not as bad as some other flash hiders I've used. Probably the worst out there, and one of the most prolific is the A2 bird hider, or bird flash cage, whatever you want to call it, bird cage. Up next is with the Pyro attached. How is the recoil control with the Pyro? The Pyro definitely keeps the muzzle noticeably flatter to my eye. And again, this is subjective because it's me shooting and it's me kind of experiencing this. But I have noticed a significant difference between the flash hider and with the Pyro attached when it comes to keeping the gun flat and being able to get those hits faster. Now, how big of a difference are we talking about? It is kind of minuscule, but minuscule can matter. Minute can matter. That 100th of a second can matter, depending on what you're doing. If you're shooting competition, or for self-defense or even law enforcement applications, depending on where you're going to go with this, there's definitely an appreciable value to having the Pyro attached. And the muzzle flash is going to be an issue for low light, which I'm about to show you, but it's during day use it's not an issue at all, and I didn't find it disruptive or distracting just through my normal practice, my own personal practice. Dead Air is not trying to hide what this thing is. They named it the Pyro. The name invokes thoughts of gigantic, beautiful fireballs, and that's exactly what you get. Fantasy writers could use the Pyro's muzzle flash as inspiration to describe a dragon. NORAD could calibrate missile launch control systems off of the bloom that this thing puts out. The fireballs, ammunition dependent, are magnificent. They are impressive. If you're one of those guys that loves to shoot high-speed photography and you want to get a huge fireball for your Instagram post, this is the muzzle device to have. More importantly, though, it keeps the muzzle super flat, which we already talked about. But how is the muzzle flash at night? Well, I'm going to show you. Basically, what I did is I set up two different guns with the Dead Air flash hider. I got a 10.5 inch PWS, and then I have the 14.5 inch agency. So we got two different barrel lengths. And if you know, barrel lengths, the shorter the barrel, generally the more muzzle flash you have because there's more unburnt powder because of the barrel length. And that's a totally different conversation. And like I said, generally speaking, the shorter the gun, the more muzzle flash you're going to have. So first up, this is the 10.5 PWS. What I did is I fired 15 rounds. 5 rounds, 3 different types of ammunition to show you the muzzle flash. The first ammunition I fired was 55 grain PMC. That's 5 rounds. The next 5 rounds was 75 grain Hornady boat tail hollow point. And then the next 5 rounds, another venerable round that's out there, was 62 grain M855 green tail. So that was the flash hider's performance with those 3 types of ammunition on the 10.5 inch PWS. Not much to see. Now granted, the camera does capture light a little bit differently than the naked eye, so it does appear either a little darker or a little brighter depending on conditions and the f-stop and the ISO setting and all those things. So it's not perfect, but video is video. Next up, we have the same ammunition, 5, 5, and 5, with the pyro attached. And now maybe you can appreciate the name pyro. The muzzle flash is there. It's significant. That's a thing. So next up, the 14.5. Again, the same 5, 5, and 5. We've got 5 rounds of 55 grain PMC, 5 rounds of 75 grain Boattail Hollow Point Hornady match, and then 5 rounds M855, that's 62 grain green tip. Now this is the 14.5 flash hider. And now, again, 5, 5, and 5 with the pyro attached to the 14.5 inch agency rifle. My personal impression is the muzzle flash from the pyro. You need a lot of lumens to cut through it at night, especially with those higher flash ammunitions like the 55 grain PMC, which is a very common training round. I imagine 55 grain Wolf would be even worse. So, is it something you'd probably want to have on your gun for low light applications? Absolutely not, unless it was in very I guess what you call mesopic light, like it's not quite dark but it's not quite bright, just your general twilight situations. I think it would be perfectly manageable, but any kind of low light, especially for a work gun, I wouldn't advise leaving the pyro on. But the great thing about it is you just take it off and you have a flash hider. That is the beauty of the system. Its simplicity is just that. Some of you may be like, well, this guy's already biased about the product, and I am. The reason I am is because Dead Air has given us the perfect amalgamation of options for every rifle. I've got a flash hider at the base if I want it. And then if I want a break, I just quick attach that pyro and I'm good to go. If the pyro isn't cutting it for some reason, I can take it off, I'm back to a flash hider, or I can attach one of Dead Air's suppressors. I'm already a huge fan of their Sandman S. So going through this review process, again, reviewing a muzzle device, there's not a whole lot to it. We want it to meet a couple of standards. We want it to mitigate flash, if that's part of its design, and we want it to help control recoil, because sound attenuation on a muzzle device is not going to be a thing. You can redirect the sound, but you can't obviously muffle the sound without it being an NFA controlled item, such as a suppressor or something like that. Blast jackets are great. You've seen blast jackets out there. They direct everything forward. The problem is blast jackets, they don't do a whole lot for muzzle flash. They do help redirect it and cone it and kind of concentrate it, but they also increase felt recoil on muzzle rise. So with this system, if I'm setting my gun up for home defense, I just leave the flash hider on. I mean, the flash hider, as you can have you seen from the slow-mo, the muzzle rise isn't that significant because it's a really good flash hider. The design was really thought out. And then if I want to flatten my gun out for super fast shooting, maybe competition or maybe range training, or maybe it's just my day use gun, I'll go ahead and, quick attach my pyro. And then if I want to go quiet, if I have that option, if I've gotten the whole system, I can go ahead and put on one of their Sandman cans and I'm good to go. The pyro doesn't add a significant amount of weight to the muzzle. It's not really going to be noticeable, so I wouldn't even consider that a negative. But are there any negatives to the pyro? I honestly couldn't find one other than the muzzle flash, but as the name will tell you, they're not trying to hide the fact that muzzle flash is a thing, and they're expecting shooters to make intelligent decisions about what system they use, when, and where. The fact that I now have a very versatile muzzle device, it can be a flash hider or it can be a brake, really appeals to me. I'm not sure if there's other systems out there that do it or do it as well or do it as simple as the Dead Air system. I mean, their collar system is, if you remember from my Sandman S review, their Sandman S, I love their collar attachment system. It's simple, it's intuitive, it's quick to attach, and it's not prone to situational problems as some other QD systems are when the gun gets really dirty or corroded or what have you. So as far as negatives, the only negative again is the muzzle flash, and they're not trying to hide the fact that the muzzle flash is a thing, so you just have to make an intelligent decision to when you're going to put your pyro on. But if you're looking for a muzzle device that's going to give you the best of both worlds, you can't really go wrong with a Dead Air flash hider and then putting the pyro on there and taking it off when you don't need it. It's definitely a system that I'm going to be using. I'm going to continue to use. I've already replaced the muzzle devices on a couple of my guns with the Dead Air flash hider, so I can work my pyro from gun to gun as I need it. And of course, I already have a Dead Air Sandman S can, so now I have a perfect trifecta to use depending on what I'm going to do. I am a default suppressor guy. I like shooting suppressed almost exclusively, just because I like the fact that I don't necessarily have to wear ear pro, and it of course, suppressors help mitigate muzzle flash as well. But sometimes I need to run loud, or maybe I can't take a suppressor with me based on the laws for that particular state when I'm traveling and teaching. So the pyro is a great system for me. And of course, the flash hider is the foundation of that system. So if someone were to ask me, hey, should I buy a pyro? My answer to them would be absolutely, absolutely yes, if you're going to use their flash hider as your muzzle device. Because they also produce another muzzle device that the pyro wouldn't really work so well with, because they both do the same thing. So if you're looking for a muzzle device, this is a really awesome choice. If you think to yourself, and you've looked around on the internet, how many other muzzle devices are this versatile? The answer is not very many. So especially if you're in the market for a suppressor, or you already have a Sandman S on the way, maybe it's in jail until your paperwork, your tax stamp comes back, it'll come with a muzzle device. I think it comes with a 308, but you should probably pick up that 5.56 flash hider and a pyro. And then you'll have a perfect trifecta of muzzle devices for your rifle, and you'll end up, just like me, probably replacing the muzzle devices on a few of your other rifles. So a big thumbs up for the Dead Air Pyro, mainly because it gives me what I want when I want it, and I can take it off and use their awesome flash hider when I don't. I'm Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.